Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another great webinar, a part of our Livespace series here. My name is Mick Griffin. I'm going to play as usual, our host stroke interactive audience, as I'm here today. Not only that, but I'm also taking my notes. Today we're going to be talking all about the topic of how to build a high quality B2B pipeline. So I promise no switch and bait here. It is exactly what we said on your sign up. As we see people joining here, I'm going to take the great pleasure today of why we are talking about this topic and introduce our amazing thought leader, Marvin Karis. Marvin, you will correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure you're going to do a better job than this, me. But what I would say is we've got Marvin here. He's Senior Director for Go-to-Market Execution at Dealfront. As we just learned here before, not only that, as I'm happy, it's the same for me. Marvin, I believe that your history is in sales, so you're going to be able to relate to the whole funnel today, relate to our SDRs joining the meeting today. But while we let those people kind of join and grab their coffees and things like that, please introduce yourself to the audience, and I'm super happy that you joined us today.
Sure. Thanks, Vic, for having me. And truly, it is that I've been struggling with a high quality pipeline myself for a bunch of years. There's always been a lot of fluctuation in sales and a lot of new stuff coming up. So it's really cool that we have this talk today. So yeah, my name is Marvin. I'm leading the GTM execution. This is like somewhat, to some of you, it might sound like a strange role. GTM execution, what's behind it is basically I'm like collaborating with all the new business, account management, CS folks, streamline new processes for us, and focus all on go-to-market execution. But because today it's more than just like having one sales leader for those topics, but rather have like a holistic approach between all of the departments and holistic strategies to support that. So yeah, I've seen a pattern, and that's why we're here today. And the pattern is that sales teams don't struggle because of the lack of leads in those days. They struggle because they chase the wrong ones. And this session is going to step away from this spray and pray, as we see it all over the place, mindset, and build a pipeline that actually closes.
I mean, come on, everybody! Like that's worth the next 57 minutes of your time for sure. I really like it, Marvin. I think that's really great. And what I'm going to ask is, while I see that room picking up, please, everybody, let us know if you can hear us. Drop it in the chat. That's a little bit of housekeeping for me. We want to hear where you're joining us from today. We definitely will be trying to find time at the end for questions as well. So please keep those questions popped in there on the right hand side. You should see an option which is to ask a question. At the end, I'll be putting those questions over to Marvin as well. We're really going to squeeze as much knowledge and experience out of you today as we can, Marvin, and I'm really happy that
and challenge me, guys. I'm here to be challenged.
Yeah, and while we get started, remember we are Livespace. We are a CRM tool. We are not afraid of a little bit of pitching here and there. So would you mind also just introducing Dealfront for a second? Like, how long have you been on the market? What is your kind of elevator pitch for Dealfront? And then we're going to get straight back to building pipeline.
Sure. So Dealfront is on the market for around like 13 years right now. Like we merged 2 years ago between like two brands, a brand that was like really prominent and really well known in Germany. It's called EchoBot, and a company that's had more of an international focus, but was based in Finland, Leadfeeder. And basically our elevator pitch is we deliver high intent data through first and third party intent for European companies to really scale your business and scale your pipeline. And this is not only tied to the volume game, but rather on the quality side of things. To get to the right contacts, get to know your ICP, and target this ICP at the right time.
Perfect. I love it. And we've got
just the elevator music was missing, right?
we can add it in post-production, I promise.
Nice. Awesome.
Recording, so. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, let's dig into this. I mean, one of the things here, which is Can you tell a little bit the story of why you kind of got so into the quality over quantity part? I mean, we've all heard those buzzwords like spray and pray and that kind of thing. What kind of drove you to this moment or within Dealfront of saying, okay, listen, like it's right for us at this time to say this is the wrong way to do it. You're missing so many things. Like, where did you get there?
Well, first of all, if we all even though we are ICs or we are leaders, right? If we take a look at our inbox, it's just swamped at the moment. And I think this is a result of it's a mix of short-term pressure that sales leaders put on their peers and long-term bad habits, right? And I think especially automation made it easy to scale outreach. And with scaling, I mean just spray and pray in general, right? So more outreach felt like this is the holy grail, and it felt like a good progress for the companies. And to be honest with you, executives love big pipeline numbers, right? And this is a result of that, right? But then also AI came and poured rocket fuel on it. So you can send hundreds of personalized messages in minutes, but the buyer, like us, can still tell that it's just noise, right? So yeah, I think we hit a tipping point, and that's where the quality becomes your edge.
Yeah, I mean, I can fully relate. I mean, I'm nodding along here so quite easily because, as being an SDR in my past, and even old habits kind of creeping into my mind. When we see that we are missing a target, whether or not it's a quarterly target or we are off target, it's so interesting that the old school approach, or maybe the default approach we have right now, is that okay, we are not doing enough, rather than are we working with the right? We're just like, hey, listen, are my reps working hard enough? Are they doing enough cold calling? Do they have enough data? Are marketing feeding it? And then if we doubt that, sadly the kind of default is like, let's get more, rather than what are we doing? So I really get that. And this is where my lovely Livespace team will pop up one of our interactive polls, which is to ask you, the audience, what is your conversion rate right now from MQLs, from your top of the funnel down to the bottom of the funnel? Is this something that you are having challenges with right now, whether or not you are a rep, or whether or not you're an IC, or whether or not you're in leadership? Please let us know, and we'll definitely come back to these votes at the end and see where the audience was as well. But Marvin, I can't imagine anyone is sat there going like, this is not a problem. So I'm happy that I don't think we have to prove it more. But I
just saw the option of 100% in there. If anyone of you
hey,
has a conversion rate from
maybe
MQL
you might have some customers in here, so they're proving that it works. So, but it obviously leads to the question is before we get into the how to solve it. I'm certainly I'd love to hear your advice into why is this happening? I mean, why are we at the moment right now that even when we were doing the prep for the webinar, I was sat there going why does everybody know the word spray and pray? How has it become so mainstream? And what are the most common reasons we find ourselves as a business becoming a spray and pray organization, even by accident?
Well, I want to expand that a little bit, because I think, in my opinion, it's about why pipeline fails in general, right? It's not only top of the funnel; it's also middle of the funnel and what comes afterwards, right? So, in my opinion, most pipeline breaks for always the same reasons. It's too broad targeting, even not the personalization part. This is basically I have a. Every single time I see sequences in tools like Outreach or in tools like Salesloft or HubSpot, whatever, where you have sequences that have no personalization touch to it, not a human touch based on the respective company you want to target, that's already a miss. This is too broad targeting. The way you target, basically. then this is resulting towards this like copy paste outreach, right? You go to any channel like LinkedIn, email, it's just copy paste. You assume that they have a pain X, you want to leverage that, but you haven't digged any deeper on company profile, contact profile, nothing, right? So basically that's the outbound approach. And then from the inbound perspective, reps qualify everything just to hit their KPIs, because it's all about like, you get an MQL and you need to qualify it, right? Because you need to have that number, because you're maybe even incentivized based on that number. It's just insane. And then most of the companies we are talking to, of course, they're coming to us trying to get this shift done, but most of them come to us and celebrate a volume culture, not a focus culture. And this is somewhat what I see currently. And those are the 4 to 5 main things why pipeline fails, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's going to be hard for me to disagree through the whole topic today, because I'm nodding along here. So, but again, I think I understand that, and I mean, I've been lucky enough to work in kind of like PLG inbound models and outbound models, and it was so interesting that, you know, for such a long time, especially business owners and C-levels, they thought that inbound was the holy grail, right? Like, oh, finally, we don't have to invest so much, but. And I, you know, you realize after a while that the lack of control on inbound is even worse, in my opinion. That you know, a deal comes through, and because they submitted an interest in your product, we are kind of like hyper qualified instantly, but they could be so far out of your ICP. I think that's the key here. And I would like to, again, if I can just elaborate on this a little bit and definitely get your insights here, which is the question is, like, I'm looking at this, and do you think that sometimes this is driven by like, what's the word, impractical or unrealistic targets? So businesses are kind of like businesses are driving more and more leads into the pipeline because they can't achieve the goals. Do you think it's like, and is this a problem, or is this a challenge that should be addressed in marketing at C-level? Do you see any patterns in where this kind of problem originates?
Not an easy answer. Good question. I think it's not a C-level problem nor an SDR problem. It's a systematic problem. Like you have, on the one hand, you have C-level often, or most of the time, wants big pipelines, right? So as a result of that, reps are chasing quantity to survive, right? But there's exactly where that leads. So I have a quick story from our rep that was at legacy EchoBot times, and we had truly played the numbers game for us. Like back in the days, we were not focusing on quality. Of course, our tool was, but the main thing was about like, how do we get our market knowledge to be alleviated in the next couple of years, right? So our goal was actually to hit 200 cold calls a day. This was our actual target, right? And the result of it was 80% of this was outside of our ICP. We stripped some. We used our data, which was great, but we had the wrong ICPs in it, like we hadn't defined them. So the whole project, and we now built a project the last couple of years, which is called pitch segments. It's just an internal use where we analyze 3 different segments and display how good this fits to our ICP. This is based on firmographics. This is based on FTE size. This is based on actual triggers right now that are resonating with our solution. So we have a comprehensive overview, and we have 3 things. It's blue, pitch blue is actually our ICP. Then we have pitch gray. That's okay-ish. Like we sold to them, but it's not reflected in our customer base that those are true ICPs. And then we have gray, which is gray, go away. Even our inbound leads are determined by those hitch segments. So especially when we look at outbound, we're focusing solely on the hitch blue ones, like the true ICP ones, where we know, like based on experience, that those are the ones who are resonating. Those have a good conversion rate. And the funny thing about this is ICP is not firmographics only. It's a time factor if it's ICP or not. So there's a use case ICP and there's a firmographic ICP. And I think this is something that's really technical or theoretical,
Mm-hmm.
but I think everyone needs to incorporate this in their day-to-day lives, because otherwise you will just end up like us 5 to 7 years ago, just swamping the market and having like time investments that are all over the place for just not closing anything. And I just want to avoid you making the same mistake, or the audience making the same mistake. So that's why I'm here.
No, I mean, I agree. It's a nice moment for me to trigger our poll number 2, which is I'd love to know from the audience, like, what is your primary source of leads and customers? Where are they coming from right now? Because again, I mean, this problem both resonates probably in all channels, in all ways that we drive MQLs into the business, but at different scenarios, right? Again, like some of those channels, they have more challenges, less challenges, but still, I think that could all be done as well. So we're gonna display that in a moment and ask you what are your primary source of your deals as well. And Marvin, it kind of leads into like, what's in your opinion now? Could you share a little bit of like, let's get into the real meat of the webinar, which is what is your process? What is the approach that you think solves this problem for our listeners, our audience today?
Well, it's the official Dealfront approach.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have the TM
surprising.
On that. That's surprising.
Yeah.
And what we actually did is we flipped that model. Like we took, and this is to some extent the hitch segments stand for it already, like the internal ones for us. But we did data targeting first. Like we analyzed our ICP, internal ICP, our customer base, segmented this customer base, and then we looked at firmographics. We looked at intent. We looked at tech signals, right? And the second thing is to build like small, high probability account sets. And that's key in my opinion, because for example, it's also an example from our end. It's like one would say manufacturers is my ICP, right? But if you dive a little bit deeper, you will find that we sell high velocity to high velocity businesses. So if we look at manufacturers, it's not the manufacturer who builds 1 truck a year. It's a manufacturer who builds a modular business or has modular components that they sell on a daily basis, right? And this is what I mean with ICP, is truly understand that. The value from our side is we can build queries together with you to find those ICPs, because we can look on, like we screen with our tool every single website and 200 subpages on every single website, and you can search for dedicated keywords. So for example, let's take that, our example here. Modular components is something that you can't find anywhere, not on LinkedIn. You need to look yourself. It takes a lifetime to do so. But if you have actually a tool that gives you all the relevant information to every single manufacturing company who has the keyword or the sentence modular components on the website, we can filter that out. So that's just the first step. And this is going deeper than firmographics, right? And then we equip our reps with the real context, not just a name or a job title, to drive those conversations. So these are the 2 components, so to speak. And this gets also accelerated by just having lead feeder in our pocket as well, to get the information who's just right now visiting our website. And that's the first party intent that we're talking about. So we combine all of this like in one, so to speak, flywheel that accelerates your ICP optimization. And that's the Dealfront approach in short.
No, I mean, and you know what's the? I mean, again, I've sadly been in sales more than 20 years now. But the fact is if you're on the webinar and you're wondering about this methodology, I can promise you that the proof of the concept has been around since I can remember. But what it used to be in the past, in my opinion, was the difference between a good rep and a bad rep was that rep who could do that calculation and do that kind of discovery in their head in real time. You know, they would talk to a lead, they would ask the right questions, and they were able to do that qualification. They would quickly, while they're talking, they can go to a website, they can do it. And like, but the biggest problem for businesses is you can't put all the pressure on your system of finding that person who can do it automatically. What you're doing at Dealfront is saying, well, hey, listen, what if we take that guesswork away and we give every rep that same superpower that we used to think was a superpower?
Exactly.
And that's for me, that's ridiculously huge information here, because I see, and please correct me if I'm wrong at this stage, I would love to talk to also to the audience and explain, this is not like, I know there will be a few owners out there, maybe a little bit old school, not our audience today, our audience for sure are smart thinkers, but who will be like, they don't care about the wastage. They don't care about the lost leads as long as the company's hitting the goal. But let's be honest, we are in 2025 and there is a huge cost to this. If you are scaling your SDRs, your BDRs based on pure number of MQLs and SQLs, even regardless of where they're from, that's hugely wasteful, first of all. And second of all, the time they are invested into the wrong leads is time that you can never get back. And I know many reps that have gone down the rabbit hole of really going after a lead who wasn't in the ICP, and a month or 2 months or 3 months later, they have to walk into their manager's office and say, we didn't get that deal. I promised you that deal. I didn't get that deal. But now we're looking at the indicators through, like Dealfront would have been able to tell you on day one, hey, listen, I'm not really sure this is worth the investment. So this can be a lose game if you get that wrong, in my opinion. Would you agree?
Definitely. Yeah. Like, and even like companies coming our way, like tiny companies, like SMBs, the S of the SMBs, right? And they even without like a proper sales team, like a fully fledged sales team, this provides value, because most of the companies think, hey, what you just mentioned to us, it's really big, like it's really complex, there needs to be a process behind it, and so on and so forth. But I think even a 2-person startup should like put relevance over volume these days, because even you're supporting that brand awareness and stuff like that. I think if you're tackling the right ICP accounts, this brand awareness is much more important than it is for, of course, any spray and pray that you can get out there, right?
Oh, I'm going to throw some fuel on the fire on the positive here as well, Marvin, because I'm coming from the startup scene, and I can't tell you that not only in terms of converting deals is this valuable, but also even in those early days of a business when you're shaping your product, your value proposition based on what your leads are saying to you, your close won and your close lost. And it's so common that businesses are pivoting, and because they are listening to the customers that are outside of their ICP. And they're being totally distracted. So I'm with you on this.
If you don't have a product market fit, Mick, it's not the customer who tells you that you need to shift your product. It's like you need to find your product market fit through the right ICPs. And for most of them, they just give up. And I truly support that.
I fully agree. So can you talk to me about what does high quality pipeline mean, and what does it look like, and how to have some indicators that you've got high quality pipeline functioning?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's a four parts to that. Yeah. Like the first, in my opinion, is there is an urgency. So there's an urgency. For that to know, you need to have your problem identification charts ready. So you need to know what's the business problem that I'm solving. What are the root causes of that business problem? Is my solution the one fixing that root cause? Okay. So if you got that, you can tailor your messaging towards that urgency, because you know the problem, you know the opportunity costs, you can frame your messaging like that, right?
Yep.
Second thing is tying back to that, there's a real business pain that you're solving. If it's just nice to have, it's 2025, as you just said. Tough times, right? For us, like high quality pipeline is always like, depending on the product that you're selling, but it's always multiple engaged stakeholders. It's either even a champion, well equipped, can be a stakeholder, in my opinion, but there needs to be multiple for a like average ARR of like 20K, 15K, depending on the size. And like what's really key is that high quality means you're not holding on to this qualification. You're disqualifying early, so you're not dragging like zombies through your CRM, and really make sure that in those qualification talks you're on point. So those are the four bits from my end.
No, I've got like a core question, which I think hopefully our audience will relate, and I even gave you a sneak peek into this one, which is, when you implement this, when you know that you want to set a higher standard for quality of the content going into your funnel, for the want of a better word, how cutthroat do you need to teach both your qualification team and your marketing team to be, and are there exceptions? Are there exceptions? And I mean, and just again, I'm coming from the startup world where most of us say that we're going to build a process for SMBs, mid-levels, and normally what pulls us right out of track is when that big fish comes into the inbound funnel. So a Samsung or an Intel or someone like that drops in and says, I'm interested, and the ICP goes out of the window.
And then the CEO comes to you and says, oh, well, we need to do enterprise sales now. Let's scale everything towards those.
Yes, exactly. And, is the right approach here, like, know your qualification, no exceptions, or when should that be fluctuated?
Yeah. So in my opinion, it's one sentence. It's ICP is not a jail. It should be a compass, right? So it should like give you a direction. And of course, it needs to be flagged internally, in my opinion, is that you have true visibility of the amount of ICPs. And if there's someone, like, for example, if you're looking at manufacturing, but there comes someone from construction, if all the relevant information that I just shared, like those 4 points, are applying to this case, well, you shouldn't like just close that one out, right? Sure. So you can close outside, but if you stretch too far and too often, it will like definitely have an impact on your team. And you need to, in my opinion, you need to like as a manager then, take an overview about all the non-ICP fit leads coming your way and scout patterns, right? So our, coming back to our pitch segments, right? Internal ICP analysis, like, those have evolved during the last 2 years. Like, we've added some areas, we've like cut someone out. We even shifted our FTE size limit to some extent. So it's always evolving. And if certain industries, for example, coming your way, just becoming aware of that problem, right? It's always tied to those 4 things, like the urgency, the business pain, and the business pain is the most important thing. It's like, are you solving that business pain, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've people who I'm lucky enough that know me already. I'm a very big fan of this one. I mean, we've just seen the industry move away from nice to have to need to have. Yeah, but the reason why we're having these kind of webinars is because, again, it doesn't mean that we didn't go from hard to impossible. In many cases, we just went from easy to difficult. And, it was a little bit easier. You could have a wider TAM, a wider ICP. But when you now need to isolate those problems that are serious problems, serious pains, you need to narrow down as well. So what I would like to ask Marvin, because I've got two kind of one core question that will lead into the next segment here, which is basically how do we avoid going back to spray and pray? How do we avoid slipping? How do we, what's the practical side of this? And I want to just ask you, while you keep in mind of explanation is, which is, when is it okay, or when should a company? There's a chance that a business got this wrong at the basics, right? They picked the wrong ICP. They picked the wrong value proposition. Is that something that companies can also identify through this process as well, and pivot slightly? Is pivoting something they can consider? But let's put those as questions 1 and 2, probably slightly different. How do we execute first?
Yeah, so from an execution perspective, it's like, and this also solves the second part. It's easy as that. It's like you need to enrich your TAM weekly. So you have your TAM, weekly base, you look at your ICP list, right? And you need to prioritize accounts from that list based on intent signals. So that's the first step. And this is already where you see that maybe a pivot makes sense if there's a lot of website visitors from yours coming from another non-ICP area. So you need to investigate that. And I'm circling back to the sales manager being responsible, or VP sales or director sales, whatever. Like the man in charge needs to take an overview on all the leads coming your way. Even marketing can do that, right? So it's from both sides. Like this is why it's so key that marketing and sales are in talks, right? But that's whole nother episode of ours. So yeah, in my opinion, it's really key that you have like your TAM analysis on a weekly basis, and there needs to be a dedicated call between sales and marketing to align on this. Because if an ICP visiting your website, if there's like 50 manufacturers, but you're focusing on IT systems, well, that's a clear sign that we need to talk, right? And we need to analyze the business problem from that IT system partner versus the business problem of the manufacturer and see the discrepancies. So it's an ongoing process. And this is where it fails most of the time, is that people in the past came to an address broker, bought a list of their ICP and said, okay, this ICP, go forward, volume play, let's go, same messaging, go ahead. And maybe split it into regions. That was the differentiation that was done, okay? And this is the problem, it doesn't evolve that way. Because you do the same thing if you look at buying something in a supermarket most of the time, is that you look at, hey, you look at every single week what I'm about to cook, right? So you look at different things every single week. So you don't have the exact same lunch every single day. So you want to scout options. And just seeing how that evolves over a week, same analogy, this is really key in my opinion, is that you scout it every single week, scout patterns, and then based on those patterns, adapt your TAM, adapt your ICP. So basically, Google wants something from me? Okay, I'm still here, right?
Yeah, we got you.
Good. Okay, so then there's like next to deeper on those few accounts that visited your website, there's also signals that you can look for depending on your product that you're selling, right? So you can look at, we look, for example, for, are those companies hiring SDRs because we equip them, right? Are visiting the pricing page or our integrations page? Are they utilizing or using tools that we integrate with? And all of this information is visible in Dealfront, by the way. So all of this kind of information you can then utilize as context to reach out. So that's actually something that we do on a daily basis to execute. We actually had a mid-sized company coming our way, let's call it Company Müller, right? Because it's German. And we saw that they were outside of our ICP, right? I think they were like a media house or something like that, like advertising company. But they just hired a new head of sales, right? They visited our pricing page 3 times in 1 week. So based on that, like we looked it up, we saw that they also have Salesforce where we integrate with. So we reached out with the context, right? So not only like, hey, we are Dealfront, but we saw you're growing your sales team, adding the tool Salesforce, yada, yada, yada. You get where I'm going. It's like really specific outreach based on informations that we get from first and third party intent. And this is key.
It's so true. I mean, again, like we are just talking now about the fact that we have what Dealfront and the methodology you're talking about is just it allows us to be smarter, because I think that what happened in a lot of organizations is we take away flexibility because we are afraid of making bad choices. But by default, having an ICP definition which is industry alone is almost crazy, because it's obviously clearly not enough, and your most value propositions of tools and services and products, everyone that's I can't imagine that you are limited by one core piece of information, which is, we have for production, but this automotive company came to, oh, so close. OCAT's helped them. Yeah, but it happens. And the reason why I asked about the pivoting in ICP as well, because I see this in even, I would say that if you're listening to this webinar now and you know that over the last year, a lot of conversations have been about increase the volume. In the conversations that I'm having, it's because they did have that right ICP, the right value proposition 2 years ago. And the market has developed, the customer has changed, their needs, their pains have changed. But because it worked 2 years ago, the concept has been, well, we are doing the right thing because we have proof from 2 years ago. Let's just do more. That's the problem. And it's not. It's the fact that the pain points have changed. The companies have changed their policies. They've changed their forward thinking, etc. So I think I love what you said. I mean, weekly is like the holy grail, in my opinion, of where we should be. And I just like, if for now, let me ask, because I'd like to ask the audience to drop a vote as well, because this is super good learning for us, which is, how do you define good pipeline now? Like, let's imagine you didn't hear what we just talked about and all these knowledge bombshells. I'd really like to know, like, in your company, is good pipeline measured by close one, new revenue, or are you looking at those key indicators in the middle of the funnel as well? Because I think that's super important. And as we move through here, Marvin, I'd love to ask you, like, okay, let's say everyone's on board. They agree, they start to implement this in the business, hopefully using Dealfront as a key part of this process. Where can we start to see that it's working? And what's the message that, if we have some champions in our webinar today and they need to go and talk to some decision makers, what are the promises that they're making? What are the impacts we're going to start to see in our funnel?
Yeah, I think when we look at it, and it's going to evolve quite quickly, to be honest. And we saw that with a bunch of customers of ours. We have currently 15,000 customers, and most of them see immediate value in the following KPIs. And the first one is, like, actually the lead to opportunity conversion rate. Like, this is truly, if you look at a business problem that you solve, you're reaching out at the right point of time, the urgency is higher, so the sales cycle length shortens, of course, right? So you can see the lead to opportunity conversion and the sales cycle length decreasing. And then you have, obviously, on a longer term, depending on your sales cycle, on your average sales cycle, the win rate by segment. So you see that, like, we look at it by segment, like, depending on, if you look at win rate, you will also see an increase. But to divide that by segment, by ICP, should be the next step, because this is also how you can scout and develop your ICP focus, or sharpen your ICP focus even further. Then, of course, like, we see stakeholder depth per op, so per opportunity. So you can see how many stakeholders are involved right now, because it's a true business problem. It's the right time to approach them, right? So you can see a major impact here. And then you have also the pipeline hygiene part, because if you look at what we deliver is truly daily actual data, right? So if you have that integrated in your CRM system, for instance, and you are just doing your operational work on a daily basis, you're going through your opportunities, you're enriching them with daily actual data with the right contacts. Most of them in your CRM system are outdated. So we'll still get on a daily basis, like, workflows, triggers from us, but also the right contacts and the right phone numbers and the right email addresses, right? So you can just enrich them. So constantly on a monthly basis, you will see the hygiene also improving, not in your opportunities, but also consistently in your organization. And this is also, of course, a key indicator, especially for CROs, because, like, forecasting is a thing, true data is a thing for those forecasts. And in order to make an analysis, like going back from customers that you have, through information about them, to then push them back towards your ICP definition, this is also key. So those are the ones that we are influencing highly and quite quickly, depending on the KPI.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I can think of even a key example in one of the organizations I'm working with right now, which is basically like, they had that outlier of a deal that closed, and I think the time to sale was something like 430 days. Yeah. So of course, what happened in the organization was then suddenly that question of, oh wow, we must have more value in some of those older leads that we didn't close.
Yeah.
Oh my god. But the flip side of that is that time resource is something that we do not have unlimited amounts of. So it's so difficult to go to your BDMs or your SDRs. Okay, go look through all those 1-year-old leads, because it means that they stop doing something else, right? So using the intelligence, using the platform to help with that hygiene, especially also for my being selfish as a sales leader, the more I need constantly my projections to get more and more accurate. So again, if my projections, if that $4,000 deal that is in my pipeline, but basically it's way out of my ICP and we were not going to close it, it's affecting my projection constantly. I want that to be cleaned. I want that to be updated. I want that to be reflected. So it's solving a huge pain for me as well. Marvin, as we are coming to the kind of key elements here, what I want to do for the audience as well is we're going to pop up a question, because everything today has been about relevance, about having better targeting. If you would like to hear from the Dealfront team and the Livespace team about how this can work, we're going to pop up a quick poll now that asks you if you want to be reached and contacted after the webinar. The nice thing is, from Marvin's side, you're going to get a highly targeted conversation about that, and they're going to talk to you about your needs. They're probably going to know more about you than you do by the time you fill it out. And I have no doubts that the Livespace team are going to be doing the same, so that's great. But Marvin, it's a lot of it was some fantastic information, and I do see how much of a pandemic we have right now in sales because of the spray and pray, because we talked about this before. AI has just accelerated this, and the notion out there right now that you can build without sales, without SDRs, let AI do everything, and it's a different topic for a different day. But what I'd like to ask you is, because I can't imagine people are not bought into learning more. What are kind of like your core key points to take away from this? And my favorite question is kind of like, what do you recommend people do tomorrow? Like, what's the first step of these many steps to having a much higher qualified, higher quality pipeline?
Yeah. So I think I can combine again two questions from your end, but because I think one sentence here is key. That's get laser focus on your ICP. However you want to do it. This is the development that needs to come from the top to the bottom. Like, some SDRs do it themselves, which is great initiative, but we have this mixed feelings between volume game on executive side versus some SDRs trying to step out of this and then get punished for it due to the fact that they don't deliver that much volume, right? Then please, audience, cut the generic messaging. Like, this is the next step. Like, I don't even read my inbox anymore if it's not like laser focused on me personally, what kind of problems I have today and I try to solve today. And the information is out there. You need to scout it, or you need to have some tools to scout it for you. And then, like, as a task maybe, and this is not the homework thingy to do, but it's probably the next step. Pick 20 accounts and deep dive into those, even with or without Dealfront, doesn't even matter. If you get into contact with us, we can do that in a trial. Anyway, just an offer. But if you pick 20 accounts, get all the information you can get, and laser focus on those, you will get meetings. You will. Like, it works for us. We have automation set in place. That's the next step, maybe, for an outlook for you guys. So we have like a sequence that fires individually, and then we have an automated sequence firing 10 minutes after that, just saying, hey, I missed something about your information that we just saw on the website. So it's more human. Even if you automate stuff, try to sound more human. That's really key. So remember, less shotgun, more sniper, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, again, my favorite saying is selling to everyone is selling to no one.
Exactly.
So I'm
Yeah,
I'm super on board
100%.
with this. And I think, the key takeaway from me that I'm going to take back to my team to have a look at things as well, which is that basically, um, sometimes the number is not as big as you think to have a successful 2025. You don't have to pull in all the leads possible on the planet. So, no, I really appreciate that. Marvin, my last question is basically, if someone wants to learn more about Dealfront, if they want to catch some more of your knowledge and your best practices, where's the best place for someone to catch you to kind of learn more?
Well, on the website, we have two things that I will really recommend you checking out. First one is we have a streaming series, like really Netflix style production, talking about exactly how to win deals at the current state, go away from spray and pray. We have also blog articles like really dedicated on this focus. Second of all, like I'm sharing rather discovery call, demo call, negotiation tips on a daily basis on LinkedIn. I'm doing that in German, even though there's a translation machine in the back end, so you can also scout it in English. So this is also like two points where you can start from today on. Follow me, follow the Dealfront company on LinkedIn. We are also like improving our content towards this like really high qualifying leads focus, ICP focus, and those are my 2 cents to it.
Okay, perfect. I mean, Marvin, I think I'll definitely be taking more of your knowledge and asking my team to reach out to Dealfront for sure, because what you've done is like I said, I'm old school. I still remember 20 years ago, one of the best sales people in my company was called Tom, and no one knew how he did what he did. He just had an excellent vision and sight, and what we kind of considered as presumption for who were the right leads to go after. And the fact now that you can help me have a full team of Toms. Tom probably isn't doing sales anymore. I hope he was.
Until we can clone those people, yes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this was the secret sauce. And if anyone's wondering if this is a problem, you only have to look at the hiring and firing that is going on in sales right now. It's the reason why. It's one of the reasons why. So now we know that the solutions like this and the methodologies like this are on the market. Thanks to you, Marvin and Tyler. Let's all go and be more laser focused snipers and less shotgun. So Marvin, listen, from my side personally, I took a lot away from this. Thank you so much. For people listening, if that was a lot of information, don't worry, you're going to get a nice recap and access to a recording after the event as well. And please reach out to Marvin to get more tips. I think this is an excellent resource that shouldn't be wasted in 2025 when we're in a new era of having to be way more targeted in the way we are talking to people. So Marvin, have a great rest of your Tuesday. Super pleasure from my side, and looking forward to hearing more from you.
Same, Mick. Thank you for the invite. Have a good Tuesday.
You too.
And thanks for the chat.
Thanks everyone for joining. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.